All right, let's dive into a story you probably think you know. One of history's most famous and most tragic cautionary tales, the incredible story of the Titanic. You've got to understand, this quote right here wasn't just some marketing slogan. This was from the vice president of the company that owned the ship. It was an absolute, deeply held belief, a promise of safety that pretty much everyone, from the press to the public, just accepted as gospel.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? How does a ship nicknamed Unsinkable end up at the bottom of the Atlantic on its maiden voyage? To really get what went so horribly wrong, we've got to go back to the very beginning. We have to build up the legend before we can break down the tragedy.
Okay, so this unsinkable idea, where did it even come from? Well, the Titanic wasn't just another ship. It was hailed as a true marvel of modern engineering. Packed with technology that wasn't just revolutionary, it was considered totally, completely foolproof.
This right here? This was the magic trick. The hull was divided into 16 separate watertight compartments. The engineers did the math and were totally confident the ship could stay afloat even if 4 of these compartments were completely flooded. This one advanced feature was the bedrock of that unsinkable claim, and it led to this dangerous sense of overconfidence that would have devastating consequences.
But hey, it wasn't just about safety features. This thing was built to be a floating palace. I mean, it was designed to be the absolute pinnacle of luxury, of size, of comfort, to make every other ship out there look tiny and outdated. Just try to picture this for a second. 882 feet. That's like lining up 3 football fields from end to end. Its size was just a spectacle. At the time, it was literally the largest moving object ever built by human hands, a true behemoth.
And the price of a ticket? Well, that tells you everything you need to know about who was on board. A first-class ticket could set you back what would be about $100,000 today. $100,000! So yeah, traveling on this ship was an experience pretty much reserved for the world's absolute wealthiest.
And the inside? Wow, it was honestly more like a floating 5-star hotel. I'm talking a heated swimming pool, a gymnasium, a squash court, all on a ship in the middle of the ocean in 1912. These were luxuries that were just completely unheard of at sea.
So let's get to the voyage itself. It all starts on April 10th, 1912. For 4 days, it's a dream. Luxury, excitement, everything they promised. But on the night of April 14th, that dream turns into an absolute nightmare.
Now this is so important. The crew wasn't sailing blind. They knew there was danger. On that day alone, they got at least 7 different warnings about icebergs up ahead. But wrapped in that cozy blanket of unsinkable confidence, they never slowed down. They just kept racing ahead at nearly top speed.
And just look at how terrifyingly fast this all went down. At 11:40 p.m., they hit the ice. Just 20 minutes later, at midnight, the captain already knows the ship is doomed and gives the order to lower the lifeboats. And less than 3 hours after impact, the Titanic is gone. The entire disaster unfolded in less time than it takes to watch a movie.
So you have to ask yourself, was it really just the iceberg? Not even close. The iceberg was the catalyst, sure, but what followed was this tragic chain reaction of human mistakes and material flaws that totally sealed the ship's fate.
And this is where that whole unsinkable myth just completely shattered. The ship was designed to survive 4 flooded compartments, but the iceberg didn't just punch 1 hole, it scraped along the side, ripping open 6 of them. And because the walls between the compartments didn't go all the way up to the top deck, water just started spilling over from one to the next, and then the next. It was like filling up an ice cube tray, and it doomed the ship. And it wasn't just the design flaw. It turns out the ship's own construction materials made things so much worse. First, the steel they used back then became really brittle in that freezing water, so instead of bending on impact, it just cracked. Then, some of the rivets holding the steel plates together were made of a weaker iron, so they just popped out, letting even more water rush in. And then, the most tragic failure. There were only enough lifeboats for about half the people on board. It was a complete recipe for disaster.
And then there's this part of the story which is just gut-wrenching. There was another ship, the SS Californian, only about 20 miles away. They were close enough to actually see the Titanic's distress flares, but their radio operator was off duty, and the captain just dismissed the signals. Help was right there on the horizon, but it never came. It's one of the biggest, most tragic what-ifs of the whole story.
As you can imagine, the sinking of the Titanic sent this profound shockwave across the entire world. It led to immediate, sweeping changes in maritime safety, and it created a legacy that, well, it continues to fascinate us to this day.
This chart really just says it all, doesn't it? It shows the devastating scale of the human cost. You see that big bar? That's everyone on board, 2,224 people. And the smaller one, the survivors, only 705. Over 1,500 people lost their lives in the freezing North Atlantic that night. Just a staggering loss.
But, out of that horrible tragedy came some real lasting change. The disaster completely rewrote international maritime laws. Suddenly, it was required for ships to have enough lifeboats for every single person. Radio rooms had to be staffed 24/7, and they even established the International Ice Patrol to monitor icebergs. All these things happened because of the Titanic, ensuring a tragedy of this scale would never, ever happen again.
For 73 long years, the Titanic was just lost, a ghost at the bottom of the sea. Then in 1985, Dr. Robert Ballard and his team finally found it. But here's the wild part. Its underwater remains are now in a race against time. Scientists think that within the next decade or so, the wreck may completely disintegrate, all thanks to metal-eating bacteria.
And really, that's the enduring legacy, isn't it? The story of the Titanic is this timeless cautionary tale. It's this powerful reminder that even our greatest achievements, our most impressive technology, are still vulnerable to the forces of nature, and maybe more importantly, to our own human error. It's a painful lesson about the danger of overconfidence. And you have to wonder, is it a lesson we still remember today?